So welcome everybody. I have the pleasure to be here today with Dr. Carolyn Booker, the Senior Vice President for the Educational Pathways at the American Dental Education Association. And we will be asking her questions about how to get into dental school and all the other nitty-gritty things. But I'd like to start with having you introduce yourself real quick and how you ended up at the position that you're in.
Great, thank you. I am an individual who has had about 20 plus years working in dental education. I originally worked at an undergraduate institution doing counseling, and from that, I entered the dental profession by working with admissions, counseling, and recruitment at the University of North Carolina School of Dentistry, from there to the Virginia Commonwealth University School of Dentistry, and then to ADDS, serving as the national person responsible for all of the admissions policies and structures around the application to dental school, as well as the advanced education programs, our international dentists and dental hygiene.
Wow, yeah, you definitely are the perfect expert to ask all our questions to today. And so without further ado, let me just jump right in. Why is dentistry a good career?
You know, we tend to look at dentistry in so many different facets, and today we say it is a career that really makes a difference in changing people's lives. And what makes it exciting is that you change their appearance, you change their confidence and their self confidence, and you allow people to be able to see it immediately. So we always say that it's a good career that allows you an opportunity for independence in your work, allows you to connect more personally with your patients. You think about the proximity of working with the patient. So you get a lot of one on one connection with patients. You get a lot of great interaction, and patients love their dentist. One of the things we often talk about that people don't think about is you ask a patient, would you stick with this dentist? And they say yes. My experience in this profession, we have had patients who have traveled 2 to 3 hours to stick with and work with the dentist. That's a career you want to be a part of where people value you so much, they're willing to travel far distances to still see you as their practitioner.
Yes, I agree. I would travel for my dentist too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So as you just said, we all go to a dentist, but I know that there's quite a lot of different career paths out there when you go into dentistry. Could you elaborate a little bit on what is out there when like when you're getting into dental school, what can you do with that?
Great. You know, one of the other things we also encourage people to think about is a career in dentistry isn't just becoming a private practitioner. It is the standard process and the standard goal of what most people tend to look for is you go to dental school, I'm going to go out and be a private practitioner, I'm going to go work for myself, I'm going to go work for somebody else. One of the other things in terms of a career path for dentistry is what we call the advanced education or the specialties. We have our 12 recognized specialties by the American Dental Association. So those are the opportunities as well, but we consider that still a part of dentistry in terms of as you graduate, you become a dentist. It's just a specialty of dentistry. Career paths, we also like to talk about the military. It's an opportunity for people to go serve in the military. Public health is an opportunity for a career path. Academia is an opportunity for a career path. We also look at dental service organizations, so the corporate dentistry, as well as government and research organizations such as the NIH. Those are career paths that we say to students, there's much more you can do with this career in dentistry other than private practice. The research is very valuable to helping us to know and identify new changes, new technologies, and new treatments in dentistry. So it's much broader than just being a private practitioner. And we do have students who often look at all those different ways of entering the profession.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting actually, because I mean, I know like my endodontist and like my son has braces, so I'm
Mhm.
familiar with that. But it's really important to know that there's much more out there. So, what kind of skills do you think are most valued in the field of dentistry?
The one thing about this, it's always interesting when we talk about the skills in dentistry. Everybody wants to go, oh, you need great hand skills. And we tend to think of that as the primary skill. When I used to do recruitment, one of the things I used to say to students, dental schools would teach you the hand skills. It is something that you can learn because it's repetitive. The more you do something, the better you become at doing it. So
Hmm.
the hand skills are important. Having eye-hand coordination is important. But the skills we really value in this profession are compassion. Are you compassionate enough to be able to understand that someone is in pain and you need to be able to relieve them of pain? Are you ethical? Ethics is very important and very critical to having someone who knows when they've done something wrong. Can you own up to doing it wrong and make the right steps to correct it? Do you have problem solving, critical thinking skills? You may be doing the work on someone's tooth and it may be the same tooth, but in a different person, it's a different tooth. So the tooth number 13 in your mouth is different than it is in my mouth. You have to be able to have good problem solving, critical thinking skills to say, this is different. How do I resolve this problem? How do I address it? How do I deal with it? And communication. We tend to look for ability to be able to communicate to a patient. This is what's happening. This is what we need to do. And do it in a way that is not negative to the patient, that you're not talking down to a patient, that you're being respectful. Those are skills that are valued that you can't always teach. So those are the things we look for in people when they come into the profession and that are often tried to assess during the interview and admissions process. Do they have these other skills? We can teach you the hand skills. We can teach you the basic science. We can teach you all the mechanics of dentistry. We can't teach you how to be a good person.
Very true, and very important. And like in retrospect, I would actually fully agree. Yes, those are all the skills that I do value in a dentist, and I had never thought about it. So I'm glad I asked.
Yes.
So how do I find out about dental schools? Like if I want to go, how do I do that?
There are a number of ways, and obviously we're a little bit biased. We tend to think the best way to find out about dental schools is through our services that we provide. We have a website called adiagodental.org. It is one of what we call the premier website for people to find out information about going to dental school, simply because it's designed for that purpose. So everything about the website is designed around how to help you get information about all of the dental schools. There are now 68 or 67. We have one that's coming on, so we've counted that one. But approximately 68 dental schools in the US, 10 in Canada. We do include the Canadian dental schools in many of our discussions. We also provide resources and services on the Canadian dental schools as well. So you can use that website. We also encourage people to attend our virtual fairs. We do a virtual fair about the process of applying to dental school each May, where you can come and actually network one-on-one with over 60 dental schools. And we have, whenever we have our annual meeting, we also do a virtual fair so you can come in person to learn about the dental schools and get information about the different dental schools. So those are some of the ways that people do. And we also have what we call our Dental School Explorer, which is our online guide to dental schools. So students are able to purchase that and at their leisure learn as much as they can about the schools. It carries a lot of good information about the profile of the school, the cost to attend, course requirements, social skills, social activities and social programs, and the mission of the school.
That's wonderful. It really sounds like a one-stop shop to get all the information that you need. That's a wonderful compilation. I'm sure a
Yeah,
lot of students wish that that would be happening for all kind of schools that are out there.
but we
Um,
try.
yeah, no, it sounds good to me. Um, is there such a thing as a DDS PhD, and how would I apply for that?
There is such a thing as a DDS PhD, and one of the unfortunate things about that is a little tricky. Not many of our schools offer it. One of the good things about the Dental School Explorer is that you can research in that document to find the dental schools that do offer the combined degree. Because we do ask for combined, if they offer combined Masters in Public Health or combined in PhD. Finding those schools, like it's a little hard, but it is in the Dental School Explorer. Those programs we encourage students to think about are extend your dental school from 4 to probably 6 years because it is a combined degree. There are some schools also, if a school doesn't say we offer this as a combined degree, I would encourage students to still ask a school, do you offer it? VCU, where I worked previously, did not actually put out that we offered that as a combined degree. We did, it was a one-on-one combination discussion. So we made it a special option for students who met certain criteria, but we didn't put it out because it was not a defined program per se. So we actually scheduled the program around that individual who wanted to do the combined degree. And there are several dental schools who would do that. They schedule it around that individual and create a program specifically for them.
But that would be a question that I would actually answer when I am starting to get interested into a specific school. And then before I even apply, if that is my goal, that is what I would reach out and find out if that is an option, right? So I do that
Yes,
way before I apply, kind of thing.
definitely before you apply, because you wouldn't want to have that as a goal and then the school not be able to offer it to you.
Yes,
But
exactly.
definitely, in part of the research, if that is a goal of someone, and we do have a number of students who have that as a goal, uh, we definitely encourage them to reach out and collect that information before they actually apply.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
Certainly,
So, can you speak a little bit about the application process and how much it would actually cost to just apply?
certainly. The cost to apply right now is what we call it's an initial application fee and a second application fee. The initial fee for this year is $251, and the second fee is 108. That additional fee applies to each additional school you apply to beyond the first. We typically have students who apply to an average of between 8 to 10 schools
Hmm.
throughout each cycle. So it's left up to that student whether they want to apply to one school or 5 schools or more. The application process is that an individual will submit their application to a DSS. A DSS is our national application service that all of our dental schools have agreed to use for their purpose. It is what we call that one stop shop, one application, and allows you to submit that application to as many different dental schools as you want. A part of that process also involves that we collect transcripts for the individual, we collect the letters of recommendation in the application, and we collect all your dental shadowing hours and everything else that you need in that application. So students only would need to send that information to one place, and we then will make sure schools get all of their information that's appropriate for them. One of the beauties that we call about our application process, now there's a part of the application where each school can do a profile of the school within the application and have additional questions that are just specific for that school. So students can actually say, I'm not interested in the school because of these other questions, and their information will never be sent to that school. So they have
Oh,
some real good options now of how to really select the schools that they're interested in sending, making sure they get and see their information.
that's great. That's wonderful. An amazing option to have, to make that kind of decision and send it centrally in a way that is much easier than if you have to send it off all yourself, kind of things.
Yes.
So that's really great. So now that we've talked about the application, can you give us like the top tips that you would want to have a student to know when they to make a strong application when they send it in?
Certainly. This is always a tricky one because
Of
we say
course.
to people that you need to be able to do this, and students are looking for that magic one or two things that they think will make the difference. That this is what I need to do, and if I do this, I'm guaranteed to get in. So I'll begin by saying there's no magic. It will vary from person to person as to what make you stand out. But some things I can say that schools tend to look for that we think give us some insight into that person is, and I'll begin with the known, is the metrics. We try as much as we like. We want to get away from the standardized test scores and from the GPA, but that is a part of that application. I encourage people not to be overwhelmed by the fact that they may have a 2.8 GPA. There are many of our dental schools who accept individuals with that GPA. It's because of everything else that's in the application that makes a difference.
Mhm.
So some of the things we like to say you should think about in the application is think about quality over quantity. Trying to fill your application up to say I've done 20 things may not make you stand out as much as being able to identify 2 things that you did exceptionally well. Being able to identify that I was the leader in Habitat for Humanity and how you contributed to Habitat for Humanity and what you learned from it makes you begin to stand out and be different. Being able to talk about your personal story. How do you share your journey? What is the way that you want people to see you? Can really make a difference in how your application is reviewed and perceived because my journey to get to where I am is different than the next person, which is different from the next person. And schools do look at that journey. They do look at that process and they do look at how you got there. Um, One of the things we also say is understand a picture is worth 1,000 words. So think about the picture you're presenting from the words that you're writing and your picture from social media. Schools do check social media accounts. They do look at what you have out there. So be particular about what you're presenting visually to the world. Keeping also in mind that when you come in for an interview, how are you presenting yourself for an interview that makes you stand out? How do I convey my passion? If you're not able to critically articulate your passion, your drive, your commitment, your excitement for this, it tends to take away from people feeling that this is what you really want to do. In my years in this profession, I often have shared stories with students of individuals who've come in with a 4.0 GPA, who've done all of the shadowing, who've got all this community service, but there's no passion. And those people don't get admitted into dental school. They have everything else, but they don't stand out. They're not competitive because, as we just talked about, the kind of skills that we value, if you don't have the passion, compassion, and some of the other things, we're not sure you're going to be the person who can sit there with a patient and be able to say to them, you have periodontal disease, we would need to extract all of your teeth. Being able to be compassionate and understanding and how that is going to be devastating for someone goes a long way as opposed to not having that kind of passion. And a couple of the things I would probably recommend is what we say, our joke is phone a friend. If you want to stand out, have somebody else to look at all of your information and give you feedback. Ask them to be very honest, not necessarily critically and mean, but to be honest to say, I see your passion, or this doesn't come off very clear, this is not succinct. The muddleness of not being clear in your writing and how you're presenting yourself can sometimes take away from a really good candidate. And the last thing I would say is to bring your A game. If you're serious and committed about this, bring your best, because when your best shines through, we see that, and that's what gets us excited about you. You have to be excited about yourself, and then that will make everybody else excited about you as well. I have said to students, sometimes it's pretty clear when people don't like themselves. So when you show that, it's hard for us to find that likeness in you. We all tend to gravitate to people who are very happy with themselves, who feel very good about themselves. It's the same thing when looking at those tips to make you competitive about how you're going to appear when you're trying to present yourself for a dental school.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that is true for a lot of interviews and a lot of applications, and phoning a friend and having a lot of pairs of eyes reading your application
Yeah.
is really a very important thing students need to keep in mind. So don't like finish it the last day before, right? Like give
Yeah.
people an option to read it and give you solid feedback so you can improve and make sure that you actually wrote what people want to read. Kind of
Yes.
approach.
And that you're saying what you think you're saying. I
Yes.
may be thinking I'm clear, but somebody else can come back and say, this isn't really clear. And so it's a good way to make sure you're saying what you actually want to say.
Yes, exactly. No, this is great. Thank you. Those are wonderful tips and advice for people to writing an application.
Yes.
Um, so, going to dental school is a costly thing. And are there any scholarships or financial help available that students have to apply at the same time, or that they can look into? I mean, a lot of people might not have the funds to actually go, but they really have the passion and would be the right person to do it.
That is one of the challenges around funding for dental school or health professions program is how to pay for this without walking away with an enormous amount of debt at the
Yeah.
end of it. And the unfortunate thing is that there are not a lot of scholarships and programs out there to help students. On the front end, what we do encourage students to think about is that there are several federal government programs that can be helpful. The federal government has a program called Scholarship for Disadvantaged Students. You have to be disadvantaged, you have to qualify. It's funded and organized through dental schools, but ask dental schools about that opportunity. When does the application open? How do I get considered? You must complete the FAFSA in order to be considered for it. The National Health Service Corps has a scholarship component as a part of a loan repayment component. And the thing about the scholarship component is it's a commitment. You can actually enter the National Health Service Corps at any point in time through your 4 years of dental school. You can come in prior to and you give a 4-year commitment. If you join it in your junior or senior year, it's a 2-year commitment. Um, but it provides a full scholarship, completely covers all of the expenses for dental school, plus give the individual a stipend to live off of while they're in school. The other thing is a lot of our students do military. It
Hmm.
may not be the best choice for everybody, but the military is one way to provide a scholarship to cover all of the expenses. Again, it's a service commitment. So one of the things we encourage students to do is look at service commitments for scholarship opportunities. And there are several states that will have service commitments as to if you go through this process, we will pay for your education. You committed to serve in this community. Most of it will be an underserved community at the time that you complete your education.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of students might not have known about these options, and so it's really good that we touched upon them.
Yes.
Um, so do applicants? I mean, we know when getting into medical school, we need a lot of volunteering hours, and you already alluded a little bit to it. So, do applicants need any clinical volunteering hours or similar experiences, and to enhance their chance of getting in? And if so, how many?
Yes, they do. Uh, we, like many of the other health professions, especially medicine and pharmacy, we want to be sure you have some idea what you're getting yourself into. So definitely having some shadowing hours or spending some time with a practitioner makes a world of difference. Our recommendation is that students visit and shadow with a general dentist and a specialist.
Hmm.
And the reason for the two is that the way they operate a practice, run a practice, and the kind of way they get patients and bring in patients is totally different. As you mentioned about your son with an endodontist, endodontists get their patients by referral. I don't walk into an endodontist's office and say, I need treatment. Someone has to be able to refer you to me, and having a student understand if I'm looking at some of the specialties, excluding most of them are aside of ortho. Ortho may be the only one we can look in a mirror and go, I need to have ortho, but pretty much everything else is on a referral basis. Having students understand that before they get into it is very important. We don't have a limit on the number of hours because it varies by school to school. The average, though, is somewhere around 100, 150 hours is what most schools are looking for students to have. All of our schools will provide on their website, as well as my Dental School Explorer, will list what is the general minimum number of hours that a school is looking for.
Okay.
And I will say, in this point in time, with everything that's been going on with COVID, some of our schools have been a little bit more accommodating with the number of shadowing hours because we recognize students may not be able to get access to a dentist because of the shutdown. But you must check the dental school's website to find out what is the number of hours. But you cannot get into a dental school without having some experience of shadowing and observation of being with a practitioner.
All right, thank you. That's really good to know. And you brought up a big point that would have been my next question. Do you have any idea how the COVID-19 pandemic will influence the upcoming application cycle?
Oh, I
I
wish I
know.
had that crystal ball to be
I
able
know.
to really give you that big picture. We don't know what the impact is going to be. What I can share with you are some of the things we have done within the application cycle to try to help minimize whatever the impact may be and make it a more positive kind of perspective for students. We've added a question in the application around COVID. And the question actually asks, how have you been impacted? And we give a couple of prompts like, did you have to, did you lose your job? Did your parents lose your job? Did you have to leave school suddenly? How was the transition to online courses? So we're giving applicants an opportunity to really talk about COVID and what it has meant for them. We actually increased our funding to our fee assistance program this year, which is our fee waiver, to help accommodate the additional people we knew who had lost income and could not afford to pay for dental school. So we added more money into our fee waiver program to address COVID. We've actually set up a COVID website on the Go Dental website where our dental schools can provide updates to changes that they're doing in their application process to help address what's happening with COVID. So it gives students a time to get some opportunity to get real life changes. When a school will say, we're now going to ask for 100 shadowing hours as opposed to 200. So
Mhm.
students can get this information pretty quickly and updated. Um, there was one other thing we have done, and I just drew a blank on it. But we've tried to be responsive to what the concerns are for students. And our dental schools, we've shifted the opening of our application cycle by 2 weeks. We've also shifted the ending point when students will be able to get notifications by 2 weeks. So we tried to make accommodations to give students more time to get the application in and to be prepared for how some of these changes are going to be. And we're working with our dental schools to do more virtual interviews to address COVID and people who don't want to travel, may be uncomfortable with traveling,
Mhm.
and still be able to have the interview process.
Oh, that's great. That's really wonderful to know that there's so much consideration about what's going on right now and trying to make students feel comfortable and able to participate in this
Yeah.
application cycle. So it's really important. So that was all the questions I had, but I'd like to give you an opportunity if I didn't touch upon something that you usually tell students and that you think is really important, if you would want to, add something to my questions that would be beneficial, then that would be the time now.
Okay, great. The about the last thing I would say is we often hear from students and the mantra about apply early, which is true. You want to get the application in as soon as possible. What I actually want students to understand and think about, it is better to have a good application than to just get something in because you want to get something in early. Make sure you've done a thorough job of looking at the application. You've got your letters of recommendation. You've actually done a very good job of writing a personal statement and having someone to review it and give you feedback. A well put together application is going to be much stronger than one that comes in early just to get it in early.
Mhm.
Our schools are very open to looking at this process and being accommodating to students. And you will get a better reception when your application is a strong application than when you just sent it in just to get it in because you want to be in early.
Great. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom about dental school for our students with us. I really, really appreciate your time and that you were willing to talk to our grad fair attendees in this virtual fashion. And with that, I thank you, and we'll be ending here now. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity as well. Have a good day.
You do too.
Bye bye.
Bye.